Tonight, a major shake-up of the security forces has been carried out in Uganda. President Yoweri Museveni has dropped General Kale Kayihura and General Henry Tumukunde as the Inspector General of Police and Minister for Security, respectively. And in Kenya a while back, the newly appointed Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, made major changes in his department. Kinoti reshuffled 368 police officers in what he says is aimed at strengthening the Criminal Investigations Unit. So the main question is, will the changes help in bolstering security in the region? That will form the basis of our discussion tonight. In studio, I have Enoch Makango, is the chairman PROSEC, that is the Protective and Safety Association of Kenya. And my colleague Solomon Serewanja will also be joining us shortly from Kampala, Uganda, to broaden this conversation. This is Bottomline Africa. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Good evening, Africa, and the headlines tonight. Uganda launches a biometric refugee identification exercise following allegations of massive corruption. The presidents of Nigeria and Togo make a trip to Ouagadougou days after deadly twin attacks left several people dead. President Ernest Bai Koroma set to hand over power following the expiry of his term as one of Africa's poorest countries goes to the polls. And President Emerson Mnangagwa has completed his first 100 days as the president of Zimbabwe. Is there any change? And your favorite Pan-African show, Bottomline Africa, begins right now. On our Twitter poll tonight, we are asking you, do you think this security shake-up in Kenya and Uganda will tame crime and violent extremism in the region? Do you think the security shake-up in Kenya and in Uganda will tame crime and violent extremism in the region? I'd like to hear your view. Our Twitter handle is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. The hashtag to use, as always, is Bottomline Africa. I'm going to go through some of your feedback within the program. Now, let me begin with our top story tonight, and we begin from right here in Kenya, where nearly 700 students, doctors at the Kenyatta National Hospital in Eldoret's Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital have boycotted work after one of their own was suspended following the brain surgery that went wrong last week. According to the Kenya Medical Pharmacist and Dentist Union, the doctors won't return to work until issues at the hospital are resolved. Caroline B. opens up our coverage tonight with that report.
Medical students from Nairobi University's Lower Kabete campus joined hands demanding for justice for one of their own, whom they also said died at the hospital after doctors failed to carry out an emergency surgery on him. Some of them were arrested during the disruption. The student demos comes as 700 registrars, who are also doctors on further training, announced their intention to withdraw their services at the country's teaching and referral hospitals after their colleague was suspended following the infamous surgery glitch at the hospital last week. These are the Kenyatta National Hospital and the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, as well as doctors working as academic staff for the University of Nairobi and Moi University.
We feel the action which was taken of suspending our colleague without initially conducting the medical audit and bring a report, it was quite premature.
The doctors' union stated that the faults that occur in line of duty should be dealt with as per medical procedure.
In Kenyatta National Hospital, there are many issues, from identification of patients, which we have recommended that we should digitalize the system of registering patients in Kenyatta. And when they come in, they should be able to take their fingerprints, take the photographs, and put in the system. When they go to theater, as a doctor, you are able to confirm using the fingerprint. Even if the patient is confused, use the fingerprint and the photo.
The doctors are further demanding for more surgeons and the expansion of the hospital to improve the quality of services and to avoid the occurrence of such a similar hitch in the future.
There are deep-rooted issues in the hospital, from the capacity, Kenya was built to handle a number of patients, like 1,000 per day. Now, patients coming to Kenyatta is the tune of 30,000 per day.
The planned boycott pronounces another crisis to the treatment of patients at the health center, which receives countless number of patients on a daily basis. Caroline B., KTN News.
Over to another worrying report coming out of South Africa. South African supermarkets began a mass recall of meat products made at a facility that health officials say was the source of a listeriosis outbreak that has killed 180 since January 2017. Now, listeriosis is caused by bacteria found in soil, water, vegetation, and animal feces, and can contaminate food, especially fresh meat, dairy, and seafood. Now, it is prevented by basic hygiene and washing food. The country's second largest supermarket chain, Pick n Pay, said it had acted immediately to withdraw all products from the manufacturing sites identified by the Department of Health. Now, Health Minister Aaron Mosaledi earlier revealed that the current outbreak began at a facility run by Enterprise Foods in Polokwane.
Because I hear on the TV, in the news, the newspaper, he said he's selling the wrong stuff. I don't know. But that's why I come here, brought all the stuff that one he sell for me, you see. So I don't know, maybe I can get my money or what, I don't know, that's all. Eat already some bologna and Russia. I don't know, maybe I can get some diseases, I don't know. I will see what's happening.
Just returning this product of Enterprise because I heard it on the news last night that we must return the products. And that's why I'm here.
We are obviously deeply concerned about the detection of listeria in certain Enterprise ready-to-eat chilled processed meat products and are dealing with the issue with utmost urgency and the highest levels within the organization. As a consumer-conscious organization, we are being extra vigilant and cautious where consumer safety remains our highest priority, and therefore immediate action was taken.
Now, let me bring you back to the East African region, and the Ugandan government launched a large-scale program to verify the identities of all refugees in the country using biometric data. Now, the exercise aims to verify more than 1 million refugees estimated to be living in the country. The government is using UN Refugee Agency biometric registration software, which has already been used to register some 4.4 million refugees in 48 countries worldwide. Now, the verification exercise in Uganda is the biggest in the agency's history. The verification is expected to better assess refugee data in the country, ensuring greater accuracy and efficiency to get refugees the support they really need. Refugees who are verified and registered will receive new ration cards, and their biometric identification will be used to provide and improve assistance to each individual. The exercise will be carried out in all refugee settlements and among urban refugees living in the capital, Kampala.
This is important to us to increase the accountability and transparency, not only to the government and the UNHCR and partners, but also the donors, who are very key in our operation.
This exercise will help us build a good data set for Uganda and ensure that their model for support to refugees, where they give them freedom of movement, the right to work, and provide this open settlement approach, is also sustained.
Hivi tulikuwa tunataka tujaribishe hata UNHCR ikitusaidia hii kuwe kompyuta ya dunia mzima. Juu refugee kama ni refugee Uganda, ajue maisha yake iko Uganda.
Now, after deadly attacks on Burkina Faso last week, the presidents of Nigeria and Togo arrived in Ouagadougou in a show of solidarity. Now, Friday's twin attacks on the French embassy and the country's military headquarters at the capital saw 8 soldiers killed, which was a new toll after 8 had previously been declared dead. Sunday saw further unrest when 1 person was shot dead after 3 people attempted to storm a roadblock in the early hours near the presidential compound. 2 of the trio managed to flee the scene, but the 3rd was arrested and gunned down after attempting to seize the weapon of a guard, according to government and security sources. Now, a suspected key figure behind the attacks has been arrested. There are reports that the attackers were aided by army infiltrators, according to a jihadist group allied to Al-Qaeda.
Défense la patrie. pour la défense de la... Également,
au nom du peuple burkinabé, du gouvernement et à mon nom personnel.
In the name of the Burkinabe people, of the government, and in its own personal name, I pay homage to all the victims and all the wounded of this inhuman attack. To the crying families, I address the condolences of the nation and express all of my solidarity. To all the wounded in care centers, I wish them swift recovery. I encourage our valiant security and defense forces who stop the enemies of the nation.
Sécurité qui ont mis hors d'état de nuire les ennemis de la nation. Rien, absolument rien ne peut justifier.
Nothing, absolutely nothing can justify such a senseless persecution against the Burkinabe state, its institutions, the valorous population that allows peace, democracy, justice, and progress. Neither the search for power, nor stupidity, nor vengeance, nor any philosophical or spiritual value, nor the search for glory and honor can justify such abuse of authority against the peaceful people who aspire only to prosperity. In this difficult moment, I want to reaffirm to Africa and to the whole world my unassailable faith in the ability of the Burkinabe people to preserve its dignity and put up a strong resistance to its enemies both inside and outside.
Well, this year's presidential race in Sierra Leone is considered wide open. Term-limited President Ernest Bai Koroma is due to step down following 10 years in power that left many people dissatisfied with the country's lack of progress. Now, Koroma handpicked Samura Kamara to stand as his ruling All People's Congress APC candidate. Another front-runner is former United Nations Under-Secretary Kande Yumkela, standing for the new party, the National Grand Coalition NGC, which has capitalized on voter frustration with the country's lack of resources and development and endemic corruption there. In his manifesto, Yumkela has promised more jobs, especially for youth and women, and a fair distribution of wealth. He has vowed to fight corruption and says he wants more citizen participation. Analysts believe Yumkela is popular enough to split the vote and cause a runoff.
About what's happened to sports in this country, I do believe that there's significant room for improvement, and no sports apart from involving the youth.
It's changed who I'm going to vote for. It's changed really. Because what I was thinking about the other person, the debate yesterday made me compare and contrast. That gave me the urge to change the person I was about to vote for.
For me, like all of them did their best, but if you ask me, for me, who like ideas that I'm going with, I would prefer Brigadier Julius Madabio. Yes, because like he touches on plenty things that affect the lame man in Sierra Leone.
The way they talk about the education, then think they're not so right. Because education so poor in the country, food facilities so poor. Right now they buy rice, 1.5 for cup. They buy in the bag, 240,000. So it's not good for the country. So they pray that let God give a good leader who can help we and the country.
Be sure to catch the final results of that election right on Bottomline Africa. Now, foreign affairs and defense ministers from AMISOM troop-contributing countries have warned that gains made in Somalia risk being eroded if outstanding issues such as inadequate troop numbers and unpredictable funding are not addressed. Now, the ministers who attended the just-concluded troop-contributing countries meeting in Kampala, Uganda, reiterated the stand taken by their respective countries. Chiefs of defense forces a day earlier that the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM, needs more support to enable it execute its mandate of securing Somalia. Now, the caution was made by Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa, who said the mission was also in need of force enablers and multipliers, which are crucial in carrying out effective operations.
The primary focus of the African Union in the coming period should then be support accelerated progress on this roadmap, continued constructive federal government of Somalia FMS engagement, and full implementation of the Somali Transitional Plan. The primacy of politics in achieving peace and security in Somalia necessitates a new narrative by the African Union. Events in the past year have concretely demonstrated that further success on the security front cannot be achieved without sufficient progress on the political agenda.
Going forward, it is essential, therefore, that the international community looks at the bigger picture in Somalia, so that the gains made in recent years through enormous efforts and great sacrifice of AMSOM and the Somalia National Army have not been in vain.
Now, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has now been in power for 100 days. This after taking power on the back of a bloodless coup last November. President Mnangagwa promised it will be business unusual. And indeed, in some respects, there have been signs of change. But on the whole, it has been much ado about nothing. Mnangagwa seemed to have anchored his transitional authority that was meant to underwrite his assault on elections set for later this year on the fight against corruption. However, critics argue this has turned into a corrosive witch hunt for those linked with Mugabe and his G4 cahoots. Now, the anniversary comes as the leader of Zimbabwe's newest political party, made up of former ZANU-PF members who were ousted alongside Robert Mugabe, met up with the former president. Retired Brigadier Ambrose Mutineri says he visited the elderly politician at home to update him on his new role as presidential candidate for the National Patriotic Front, NPF.
I, Emmerson Mnangagwa,
Now, Ethiopia's parliament has ratified a state of emergency imposed after the Prime Minister announced his resignation, though votes against the bill exposed rift within the ruling coalition. Now, the state of emergency bans protest and restricts publications that could be deemed to incite violence. It was imposed on February 16th, a day after Haile Mariam Desalegn announced his surprise resignation. Now, the resignation was unprecedented in Ethiopia's modern history. It followed several years of unrest that broke out in 2015 over land rights before broadening into demonstrations over political and human rights there. Meanwhile, Ethiopian media reports the shops and markets remain closed and transport paralyzed across Ethiopia's Oromia region. Today's protesters begin the first of 3 days of a boycott called by activists. Now, the strike action is against the state of emergency, which is already in force.
We are in a situation in which people could not shop for their basic supplies because of the roadblocks here and there. Not only that, it is worth remembering that it has been impossible to live a peaceful daily life. The proclamation gives excessive power to the command post, very excessive power. It gives the military extra power to interfere in various activities aside from their job of protecting peace and stability. They can now interfere in administrative activities. What have you got to do with issues of land? If there's land invasion, there's a proper procedure to take care of it.
Now, further afield, today was the launch of the National People's Congress that saw over 2,000 representatives congregate at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, China. It was during the 2-hour opening ceremony that the roadmap to China's political future was outlined with elements on its collaborative efforts with other nations taking center stage. Our reporter Trixie Gado attended the event and filed this story.
Today was the opening ceremony of the 13th National People's Congress, whereby in 2 hours, members of parliament, or as they're known as here as deputies, came together to listen to a report on the workings of the government in the past political season as China ushers in a new political season. So in this session, members of parliament did listen to a report on the government workings, whereby a lot was outlined on how the government plans to move forward in terms of bettering its political workings and the economy. But as far as Africa is concerned, there are various issues that did indeed touch on Africa. For example, the Belt and Road Initiative that touches on ways that in which China can cooperate with various nations in empowering them, while as well benefiting itself in infrastructural development. At the same time, this nation is outlining ways of dealing with poverty, something that Africa may be able to borrow from. But as of now, there are outlining ways in which the constitution might be amended just to ensure that there are ways in which the government can work politically in a better way. I'm Trix Ingado reporting from Beijing, China for KTN News.
Thank you, Trix, for that report. Now, Daiichi Yamamoto is a Japanese photographer, was called Senegal home for the past 2 years. His work captures local fashion and has helped launch the careers of several Senegalese fashion models. For VOA, Chika Odua has that story for us.
With every snap, Japan native Daiichi Yamamoto is reminded about what he loves most about Senegal. He moved here from New York City 2 years ago.
When I initially came to Senegal, I was very impressed with the colorful, dresses, which, in the U.S., people, when I came, people started dressing up like that kind of dress. But then here, people wear as a culture, and I was very impressed of those, rich culture. But I also, when it comes to the photography in Africa, I see a lot of, poverty, some kind of negative images of Africa. But then, I just wanted to focus on a positive side of Africa. This colorful dress and the fashion, it just really, caught my heart. All right.
A self-taught photographer, Yamamoto has carved a niche for himself with aspiring local models. His Instagram feed is a colorful collage of looks that has also drawn attention to the Senegalese fashion scene. Our Claudine has dreamed of being an international model since she was 7 years old. She says Yamamoto's background gives him a unique aesthetic.
Daiichi is a professional photographer, and he's also a foreigner. He has introduced to us a new culture and has also used his experience to make me better.
And it's not just the models who benefit from the exposure. Makeup artist Jessica Manuela says he was the only photographer who gave her a chance. Designer Mati Fowl is new in the fashion industry. She says Yamamoto took a risk using her clothes for his shoots.
Really helped me from the beginning by giving me strength, really, and confidence. Because every time I'm hearing him, he's like, you have to do this, you have to do this. He really motivates me.
23-year-old Aisha Gui is one of Yamamoto's most successful models. She recently relocated to Europe to further her career. She spoke to VOA via FaceTime from Milan, where she is walking the catwalks for Fashion Week.
My agency in Milan here, they use the picture I took with Daiichi has composite, composite car to go to the casting, something like that.
Back in Senegal, Yamamoto is coaching a first-timer to pose with ease and grace. Chika Odua for VOA News, Dakar.
Now, once again, let's revisit our top story, and which forms the basis of our discussion tonight is that Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has replaced his security minister and police chief following spate of murders there. And in Kenya, last week, the DCI boss, George Kinoti, has transferred a total of 368 officers in major security shake-up in Kenya, according to him, in a bid to strengthen the criminal investigation unit. In studio, I'll be talking to Enoch Makanga, who is the chairman, Protective and Safety Association of Kenya, well known as PROSAC. And from Kampala, Uganda, my colleague Solomon Serawanja is going to speak to Fred Egesa, who is a security analyst there. All these and much more after this very short break. Stay with us.